Boom. And we are live. Let's go. Coach Mike here at Impact Sports Lab and My 360 Mindset. I'm here with my guy, Mike Polk, former SEC right-handed pitcher, and we are here to dive into some mindset talking, baby. Mike Polk, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm vibing, dude. I'm so excited to have you here. We were just talking a little bit before we started up this episode, and every time I see this guy, I get to talk to him, bro, I get fired up. It takes me back to our days back in the Cape when we were messing around in the bullpen, and Mike was actually going out to perform, but I was just sitting there messing around eating sunflower seeds. So
Well, if I remember correctly, I think you got to perform too.
I got to perform a little bit.
I think they got
Towards
to
the
do it.
towards the end, I got to play. I didn't even have my cleats on. And you were sitting there telling me the whole summer. I felt like I was there, like, yo, Mike, you're doing good, bro. Just don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden, the last game, I have you there, like, dude, you'll be fine. Just get out there, have fun. I'm like, oh Jesus, it was an absolute. Yeah, I was nervous as hell, but everybody gets to that point at one point. But no, great memories, bro. Great memories of this guy. This guy is a savage. Great talent on the mound, but that's just the beginning. I learned a lot from this kid. We had great conversations that whole summer, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on. But yeah, man, the first thing I like to do with these episodes is get people a little bit, they know more about me week after week, but you're a new face for everybody that's watching, and to everybody that's listening, you're a new voice. So I kind of want to open the floor up to you to talk a little bit about where you're from, where you went to high school, when you picked up a baseball for the first time. And all that good stuff. If the floor is yours, give me a little intro to who Michael Polk is.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. I was a young kid in Matthews, North Carolina, when I picked up the baseball the first time. I was the little kid. I showed up at rec ball tryouts, and all these kids were showing up in their all-star uniforms and all this cool stuff. And I was out there. I showed up with jeans, a T-shirt, and a camouflage hat. I was tennis shoes. I had a bat and a glove, and I was like, let's go. I was awful. I mean, I was the worst kid out there. It wasn't even close. I think I was probably one of the last couple of people picked in the rec league. But I ended up going through it, just like worked real hard and got decent at it. I was never outstanding. But I was always able to throw the thing pretty hard. It was just kind of like I didn't know where I was going, but like I could throw it hard. So they put me in the outfield, and I started doing that, and then I got a bunch of black eyes and stuff, and missed a lot of balls. And God, I was bad when I was young. I was so bad. Like, it's hard to believe how bad I was. But then kind of moved on, kept going, and eventually did all that, went and played All-Stars, ended up doing pretty well. But got to right before high school, and we had to move, and we ended up moving to Georgia. And it was I had a knee surgery like I think the freshman year of high school, and I was going through that. I was before I'd been playing all sorts of sports, but couldn't play football, couldn't play basketball because I was recovering and stuff from that. So I was just didn't really know what to do. I was like, gosh, this sucks. First time not playing sports and my first injury, one of a couple. But so did that and then came back and ended up actually doing pretty well. I thought I was going to make the varsity team, didn't. And then I put on the freshman team, and it actually ended up being one of the greatest seasons ever. We had some coaches that were just so smart and so talented, and knew so much information. I'll still text them sometimes. They always give me some good information. One of them was a South Carolina grad, so he gave me a lot of crap when I was at Georgia, and then when I finally went to South Carolina, I was real happy about that. But then,
I'm sure he let you hear for sure. I'm sure
yeah.
He was like, dude, what are you doing? And then you ended up being there. So we'll talk more about that. But continue. Sorry to cut you off.
No. But then I went through high school season. I think after sophomore year, I think it was sophomore year, I was playing summer ball, and I was doing decent. I mean, I was a regular pitcher throwing 80, 82, and I was not really fantastic. And then it was actually a funny story. I started one game, and I was sitting 82, 83. Then there was a rain delay, and we had to stop playing it was like 2-hour rain delay. So then I went back we were just kind of chilling, and then I was getting tired. My mom's like, here, drink this Monster. He's getting tired. You need to drink a little bit of Monster or something. So I drank that, and then went down to the bullpen to warm up when the game was about to start again. And my catcher was like, "Dude, you throwing two seams? Let's throw four seams." I was like, "Shit, all right, why not?" So I started throwing four seams and was thinking, I'm gonna start using my legs. I feel like I've never used my legs before. So there's a whole mix of stuff all piled in. I was drinking a Monster. I was trying to do something new, and I was throwing a four seam. I come out, my first pitch was 88, and I was like, "Dang, that was kind of cool." And I did it again, 88, then 89, and then 88, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's kind of cool." I didn't throw this hard my entire life, at least not off the mound. But so then I did that, and that was actually when colleges started talking to me, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty cool." And then next game, I think the next game I pitched and I hit 90 for the first time. I was like, "This is insane." And there was like some scouts there watching, and I was like, "This is actually crazy." Then SEC scouts were there. I mean, ACC, SEC, and I was just like, "Oh." It was just so like surreal, and I didn't think I was ever going to go to college like for baseball like at all. I was like trying to figure out what I was like, what am I going to get my degree in one day? I didn't know I'd be playing baseball, but and then started talking to some schools and ended up getting. I was talking to a few, and then I ended up deciding that Georgia was going to be a place for me. It was best scholarship and everything, and it was closer to home. I don't know, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just like, all right, let's go to college. It's supposed to be a good school. Let's do it. So went through my junior and senior year, did pretty well. I mean, kept doing good enough. I think I topped 91 in my last game in high school. But yeah, so I did all that, and then I ended up going to school. That first summer was tough. It was kind of a wake up call. They had this thing where we came there, I think, a month or two before this first semester, and we had to take one class. And during that class, we worked out 4 or 5 days a week, and it was lit. We didn't pick up a weight, but none of us could walk when we got out of there. I mean, it was absolutely one of the craziest things ever. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play here anymore. Like I was like,
Oh my God! And now you're saying that was the summer before your freshman year at Georgia, right?
yes, yes,
So yeah, because that's I feel that's a common practice with a lot of these big time schools. They'll have their freshman class come early, get accustomed to the life,
absolutely.
living on campus and going to a class and seeing if they're ready. But I don't think people really talk about the work that goes in,
Oh
even
my gosh.
outside of baseball. Other than it's not just there to go, oh, let's have some fun. Ooh, ooh. You're out
Oh,
there grinding.
oh yeah.
Uh,
And don't get
yeah,
me
no,
wrong,
that's
we still had a little fun, but like the days that we worked. Like we were up at 5 a.m. to go lift and do all this stuff, and then we would go to our class, which was like a 3-4 hour class, because it was like I think a 6 week class. So we just spent a few like hours there, and then after that, about 2 o'clock, we were done. We're like, now what? Now we just sit here and hurt from the workout, and I mean, just do whatever. But so did that, and then freshman year came around. Oh my gosh, I think I touched 93 in the fall. No, touched 95 in the fall because so we were going through the fall. I was like, dang, I'm throwing hard, and I was like, I actually started taking Adderall just because I was using it for school, but then I ended up like not because I don't know, I ended up using it all the time just because I felt like it helped me, and I'll talk about that a little later, but we did all that, and then I was pitching really well. We had a fall series every year in the fall against Florida, and pitched there. I think I threw 1 inning, had 2 strikeouts and a pop up, I think, but touched 95. I was like, this is crazy. I mean, I felt like the man when I was that whole fall pitching, and then COVID. Then well,
wow.
we started.
So
Continue.
oh yeah, I was gonna say. So you basically, so within a couple months, you go from playing in high school baseball, which I'm assuming you were one of the better pitchers on your team
Yeah.
towards the end of your career, and then you're thrown into the fire at UGA, where you have to go out and start performing in terms of like classes, all that stuff, the summer of your freshman year. Then you have to roll into a fall, and you're handed the ball pretty much right away to go out and perform. And I'm saying this so people can catch it because it can get lost a little bit in the sauce of our conversation. Like
Yeah.
When freshmen go, when seniors in high school are asked to come and play at a university to go play, they're not just saying, "Hey, like come, hang out with us until you're ready." Like they're expecting you to be able to give, "Hey, here's the ball, go perform." To a
Yeah.
certain extent, like they're not going to go ask every single freshman on the team, "Hey, go start every game for us this year." But at the end of the day, you're not just there to have fun. Like you're there to get the ball and try to compete from
Yeah.
off the rip. And I think a lot of high school kids get in this habit of, and I'm just mentioning this for the high school kids that are watching. A lot of high school kids I've worked with or I've seen get in the habit of doing this thing where they're doing all this prep work to get into college. They finally get into college and they're like, "Oh, nice, I met my goal. Let's go. I'm going to college." And it's like, no, like you're not going there to just like be along for the ride with a great program. Like you have to go be the great program now. You have to go to Georgia and compete your ass off. Part of my language, but compete your butt off
Yeah.
to earn a spot. And I'm sure that's what you were doing because I know you're a competitor and you're not just there to hang out.
Absolutely.
So I just want people to realize that like this is a guy that was coming from, I don't know if you're from a small town, but you were really, really good at where you were, and you weren't satisfied, and you had to continue to work into freshman year of college to be like, dude, like I want to be a guy here. Like, yeah, it's all fun and games, making a roster at the SEC level, but I want to be the guy, or I want to be talented at this level, because I think people get confused that when you're a freshman rolling into school, you got to be ready. Like you got to be ready to be given the ball. You got to be ready to get in the box and
Yeah.
compete.
And
So
with
continue. I didn't mean it.
yeah, and with that, going off that, like when you get there, like you have to know, like you're playing again. Like you have to know, you just have to go play. Like a lot of it, like I feel like a lot of people struggle their freshman year because they either come in and they're like really good, or they come in and they struggle a little bit. And it's the ones that when they struggle, it's kind of like, okay, maybe I'm not really ready for this, whatever. But like you have to know that you're a dude. Like they didn't bring you there to ride the bench. They don't recruit people to go ride the bench. Like they recruit people to come there and be a dude.
Be a guy. Yeah, 100%. And it's like, I've found it even my career, I definitely didn't play at the level that you played. But even so, like, just having that understanding as a freshman coming in that, like, there is a job to be done for everybody on the team. You might not like your job from the out the gate, but there's always a shuffle throughout the season of, some guy gets hurt, this guy, goes down, this guy fails a class. And if you're not ready to be pulled up into that position, like you're not gonna get it, and I'm sure that you've seen plenty of situations where guys will be there for a year, they don't have what it takes, they kind of crumble, they don't take that as motivation to get better, and all of a sudden they're gone the next year. It's kind of a cutthroat, especially with the transfer portal now and being able to bring in anybody at any point. It's kind of cutthroat if you're not ready to perform out the gate and going and putting your best foot forward to be a good teammate, a good resource for your coach as a player, and just a good, like I said, a good teammate. You're out. Like they don't have time to waste. These coaches, they're as coaches, they rely on winning seasons to keep their job. So they got to go get the best players that they can
Yeah.
to come in here and perform. But yes, continue. So you were saying freshman year at Georgia, you basically are given an opportunity to pitch against Florida in the fall, just to give people an idea of what your fall looks like, because fall baseball when you're in little league is a little bit different than college fall baseball. Can you just touch upon how many days a week we're talking here you guys are on the field? Because I don't think people realize how much work goes into a fall baseball,
Yeah.
time frame.
So I don't know. I've done this for a while. I just got to a point where I'll just show up when they told me to. But I mean, when you first get there after the fall, after the summer, whatever you do in the summer, then you start doing actual team lifts and team things. Like, and you start off like just, I think it's like 8-hour weeks. That's pretty short. And you do that and you get a couple hours here and there. And like realistically, you probably do a little more than that. There's a lot of optional stuff, but once you like get going, like you get to a point in the fall where it's like, okay, now it's like basically like a short season. Like you're playing, like, I mean, my fall, I think we were playing scrimmaging Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe Wednesday as well. Like we scrimmage like 4 days a week. And so then that was during football season, everything, like all the things, like you see everybody else going to the games, and we would end up going like we would be
Yeah.
out. We would be out there scrimmaging before the football game. We're like, oh, gosh dang.
Could be at the tailgate right now.
But then, but we'd usually finish the scrimmage like an hour to 30 minutes before the game, and then we'd run over the game or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it was still like you go in there and you're there to play baseball. Like you're not there to do other things that normal students do, and it's definitely different, like different life that you live. But I mean, still fun. I mean, you still find your fun. You do what you love, and you do it the best you can.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, after the fall, I mean, you go into winter break, and winter break you are supposed to do things to get better. Some people did, some people didn't. It's one of those things where you go home and sometimes you come back, and some guys didn't really do much, and usually you can kind of tell guys that didn't, and there's definitely some that did, and I don't know, you could always tell. But then after the winter time or whatever, you come back, start school, and then you start back up, and you get back to throwing in scrimmages, and you do scrimmages up until season pretty much. I mean, a lot of I feel like the biggest difference in college baseball, besides like, I don't know, one of the biggest differences I thought was you scrimmage, like in the off season, you're still playing. Like you're always playing, just playing games, and just getting in
100%.
situations where you can learn. And it's like a lot of playing is like just learning by trial and error. Like you do it, and if you mess up, well, at least you did it there, and you can fix it next time. But I mean, but then at the same time, you're also trying to earn a spot. So I don't know, it's a lot of competition that like people, like you want to cheer for everybody, but you're also competing with the guy next to you. Like everybody's trying to get a spot as well. I know that's how they're going to get the pro ball and everything, but yeah. And then once season rolls around, it was actually crazy. Me and one of my roommates, I thought that I was doing really well going into the season. Just a second, sorry.
No, you're good.
And one of my roommates was doing really well as well. And then right before the season, I rolled my ankle in a scrimmage, actually. I was going to field a bunt. It just went. And so right before the season, I don't know, I felt like I was like kind of got left behind a little bit just because I was hurt like for the first 2 weeks of the season. And so then I ended up not pitching for the first couple weeks, and when that ended up like I don't know, I just didn't pitch as much, and then so then it's, if you don't pitch, then other people are gonna come up and get the opportunity. And
100%.
then we were playing, and I think I had 5 innings, and then we were on our way to our first SEC series against Florida. We were ranked 2, they were ranked 1. I think it was one of the, or vice versa. It was good on good. I mean, we were going to my first SEC series. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then we went, and we were on the way there, and COVID started. I mean, we were on the way there, and we got like, y'all got to turn around. And we're like, what? And within an hour, it went from like us going to play the first SEC series to the rest of your season is canceled. And it was like, we didn't know what was going on. It was absolutely insane. So, and like over COVID, it was, then, I mean, we went home, we were all confused. I don't know what to do. So when I went home, I tried to be safe or whatever, because I didn't know. And me and some of my buddies, we'd like go out, and I was like, well, I guess I got to keep pitching. So I'd go out and I'd throw on my own, and I ended up throwing for a while, and then had some buddies that were like, oh, I need to hit. And I was like, oh, perfect. You can hit
Just
off
do
me.
lives. Yeah, just do lives.
We did live at bats for however long we did it, and just over and over and over. It was fun and all, but it was just, I don't know, it was crazy. Sorry, my girlfriend just got here. But,
no, it's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, and so we did that, and then ended up. I actually found a league that was open. It was like one of the only leagues open in Florida, and we went there, and I pitched a little bit, but I pitched decent, pretty well. I mean, I'd just been throwing off the mound to random people for so long, and I was like, almost, because I didn't really know if I was going to play. We didn't know what was happening, and I had an opportunity to go play. I bet I was going to play, but went and played, did pretty well, and then after that, I was right. Like, I guess I was after that I played, and then went back to Georgia after that, and that next fall I was starting up, and that was when the elbow started hurting, and I
Oh,
was like,
geez. Yeah,
that
we'll
was,
get into the elbow, but I just want to paint a picture for people again. COVID aside, okay. One thing that is crucial to take out of how much baseball this guy is saying people play in college, okay? Because again, high school kids looking to go play in college, you have to understand what you're committing to, okay? A freshman could expect to roll into a fall, okay? Play 3 to 4 scrimmages pretty much every week up until winter break, have a couple weeks off, okay? Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, and then come back, scrimmage for 3 to 4 weeks to start off the spring, okay? Maybe like, 2 to 3 a week, and then play 55, 60 games if you're lucky to make the playoffs in a spring. And then I know some summer leagues that run 70 games in the summer. So, we're talking about hundreds of innings on a pitcher, or we're talking about, hundreds of games for a position player where you have to be ready mentally, physically to go. And again, I bring it back to the high school kids that are looking to play in college, because high school baseball, especially on social media, it seems so awesome, and it is. It is the greatest thing. I'm so fortunate and I know you probably are too, to have played college baseball. But when they say it's not for everybody, they don't mean that it's just not for everybody in the sense of like you don't have the physical talent to do it. It's the grind that comes with it. I mean, what he just said, COVID hit, the first thing that he thought of, I thought of, every other college baseball player thought of it is like, okay, how am I getting my reps in? I remember going down, hitting on field off a tee and just ripping balls into like right field, like just like ripping them, where I remember catching lives for a kid that was with the Orioles, the Brewers, a couple other teams, the Rays. We were just like ripping live at bats on a high school field in the middle of COVID. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that. But again, there's a different type of mentality and a mindset you have to have when you're going to play college baseball. Like your summers are dedicated to getting better. Your winters are dedicated to getting better. And then you're asked to mentally compete and stay locked in for an entire fall, an entire spring, and sometimes an entire summer when you're playing. And I don't think people realize that baseball is a unique game. I know other sports have similar setups where you're all year long, but there's never a time where you can basically say, "Hey, I'm not going to throw for 3 months." When you're in the action. And if you do, good luck to you, because like you might not have it when you come back. But yeah, let's fast forward, because I know I want to reminisce on the Cape. That's why I'm fast forwarding to it. I want to know how you ended up getting in contact with Kelly, because I know you and John Cannon, who is now in the show, right?
made it, dude.
So we got to talk about how you guys ended up in the Cape, because I think you guys were the only 2 UGA guys that year, right? That came down.
That's right.
So I want to hear a little bit about how you ended up getting in contact with Kelly, and then obviously what that was like. To me, the Cape is like the holy grail. I don't know if you guys felt the same way, like, oh, we're going to the Cape, but I want to hear about your experience with getting into the Cape.
Yeah, well, so I mean, honestly, I don't even remember. I think it was after, so the summer that my sophomore year, I guess, I pitched. I think I did really well, and after that, I was like, all right. I think he told me in the fall. He's like, yeah, you got you somewhere in the Cape to go play, and I was like, oh, all right, sounds good. I'll be honest with you, like,
yeah, all right, cool.
Like I said, like when I was growing up, I wasn't very good at baseball until like I was, and I was like, so I don't know, I didn't really know that much. So I just kind of was like, all right, yeah, let's go do it. So I was just a grinder, so I just kept doing whatever I thought I was supposed to do, and that's just how I was. And they told me that I should go play. I was like, all right, let's do it. So I did it, and I guess I got in contact with him in the fall, but and went through the season. I did okay during the season. That was kind of when the elbow injury started, so it was kind of tough on me, but ended up doing, I guess, I just ended up going to do it, and went up there, played decent, not great. I mean, that was, again, elbow injury. I kept going through it, and I don't know. I thought it was just something that everybody had, and it just wasn't, I guess.
It just it just was not. I mean, I don't even. But that's what's crazy. Again, just so you guys can understand a little bit about who this guy is. I don't remember you mentioning it once when we were down there. So even if it was by, or maybe I'm a bad listener, but I just don't remember. I don't remember hearing about the elbow injury once. We did have one kid. I don't know if you remember this, but we had a kid, a position player that tore his
Mhm.
UCL at the beginning of the summer, and everybody was like, "Oh shit!" Like, what does that mean? Like, is it gonna happen at every throw? When I was in the pen, I'd be like, "Is it going for me too?" Like, because once you see something happen to somebody else, you start thinking about it, and you're like, "Ah, shit."
Yeah.
But no,
Once
man,
you,
that was a
yeah.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say is once that summer hit, that was. I mean, I had a great time. It was rainy, but we were down in that bullpen vibing, dude. I remember specifically hanging out with you, with Morris from Arkansas.
Oh, Zach, yeah.
Yeah, Zach Morris. And dude, we had a decent team. I mean, at one point, Jordan Sprink, we had him at
Yep.
short, and then
Sprinkle.
uh,
Peyton
Jace
Chatton as well.
Peyton Chatinier, dude. Like we had guys coming in from the World Series like late. We had a good team, and then those guys go to Team USA, and then you know So we went from having Team USA guys at the beginning of the summer to me catching at the end of the summer. So you can imagine how the middle went. And yeah, dude, it was crazy. I mean, people were getting tested for COVID. I don't even know if you people know this, but like I was supposed to be getting tested the entire summer of COVID, and I just like kind of never showed up because no one told me that I had to do that as a bullpen catcher. And then all of a sudden they when I got rostered, they're like, "Hey, you have to go get tested." So I'm like, "Oh, I'll go get tested. That's great." I go get tested. Like, "Oh, so like, are you new? Like, where are you coming from? Like, you play in the Northwoods?" I'm like, "No, I've been here all summer." And then they're like, "What?" And I'm like, I'm just kidding. And I just like walked away because I didn't want them to like mess with my vibe.
Yeah.
But no, anyways, enough about me. But yeah, I mean, I just remember us being out there. You were a guy that we could have conversations even when you weren't pitching about how to be better. And
Mhm.
I think that's a true, again, high level pitcher that already is, seemingly at a goal that most kids these days have of playing SEC level baseball, and you were still striving to get better. And I think it was a common trait that I saw, amongst the entire team down in the Cape. We were all having conversations about just different type of pitches, mechanical, intent wise, all stuff about just the art. Excuse me, the art of pitching.
Yeah.
We would use that time in the pen just to get better. I mean, obviously we told stupid stories and we had our fun, but like I just remember specifically like guys like you, Jake Som, other high level arms that would just like were there to get better. I mean, Orion, dude, Orion's in the bigs
Oh,
now.
yeah. He's in the
It's
big.
crazy. It's insane.
Mhm.
I actually went to see him down at Fenway when they were playing, but nonetheless. So yeah, dude, I love that. You were able to come from a place of not really being good at the game, and then work your way up to playing SEC baseball. So I congratulate you big time on that. But I know your road didn't really stop at UGA. So walk me through the damn portal because people don't know this. I'm sure that are listening right now. This guy was like well regarded as like one of the top talents in the portal when you entered. Like you were like posted at. I remember on D1 Baseball, I saw like top relievers in the portal. Mike Polk right there. I was like, oh, he's leaving.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So talk to me about that. What kind of made your decision to leave, and then how was that process, and what were kind of the obstacles? Like, because again, people think it's all roses and great. You're getting offers from here and there, but like, there's a lot that goes into this decision, like your family, any relationships that you have with your coaches at your old school, going to the new school, and then having to jump into a new team. So kind of paint me a picture of the dynamic of that whole experience for you and kind of how you dealt with that.
So that actually kind of goes back to junior year. So after I ended up starting having elbow problems in my sophomore year after COVID or whatever, went through that year, pitched pretty well, got through it. And my junior year came along and I did not pitch well. I pitched pretty poorly, and a lot of it was because I was injured and I just kept pitching. It just hurt a lot, and I put everything I could on it and everything. It was just honestly, it like mentally messed me up a lot. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to do. I was like, I thought everybody was going through it, and I no matter how hard I tried, I could not put the ball where I wanted it, and it was just, I mean, it was probably one of my worst seasons ever, and it sucked, and it mentally just tore me up. And then after that, I was like, all right, if I don't do well next year, I think I'm going to be done with baseball because like this sucks. And actually, I guess that was my yeah. Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do one more year, do my senior year or whatever, and then because I mean, I had another year, the COVID year, and I was like, I don't really want to take it just because if I mean, if I'm gonna pitch like that, it's like I can't do that anymore. That was miserable, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so I ended up going into the fall of my senior year, and I was pitching, and then it all started. I broke my rib or something, and then so I couldn't pitch in the fall scrimmage. We always had to do Florida, and then so I didn't pitch, and then I was rehab. I was like coming back from that, let that heal, and then I had a small surgery on my elbow, like literally, like how do I explain it? So the day before I was supposed to start throwing after my rib messed up, I woke up, my elbow was like locked, like it was stuck. I was like, what the hell? So I was just like, I didn't know what to do. I told my trainer, and it was just like swole up, and I was like, I'll go try to throw. So I did the throwing, and it just did not feel good. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I ended up getting like a X-ray or MRI or something. When I looked in there, I had some bone fragments that had broken loose or whatever. So I had to have a little small surgery during that time, and just, I mean, did all that, and I don't know, I was just all over the place, and I think it was the fall before I actually started seeing a sports psychologist because I was pretty messed up just from all of it, and so I was working with him through all this, and he kind of helped me out a lot, and then I was rehabbing that, I was going through the rehab, and then one day I was throwing, and I felt a pull, and it just was not good. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I couldn't even throw it. Like, it was like I tried throwing, but it just wouldn't go. Like, it was like, I don't know how to explain it. But like, you throw, and it's like, usually
Oh,
when you hard, like, you have that little, like, you can get that oomph, but like, I was just, it wouldn't go. And I was like, all right. So I went and got looked at and got an MRI. And it turns out those 3 years of pitching, I had a little thing in my elbow because I had a PRP my sophomore year, I think. I don't know if that's what did it. I don't know. I could have had it for a long time, but I ended up when they went in there. So like, I don't know how to explain it, but you know how like a molar upside down, like it's got like four little points or whatever, and
mhm.
this is like connected. So this part of the molar was connected to the bone, and then the UCL was like wrapped around and these points. So every time I pronated, it would like cut it a little bit. So I was having
Jeez.
that, and so it turns out it was not just soreness all those years, but then
Jeez.
ended up just he was like, yeah, we're gonna go in there, and if we can put a brace on, because I mean, I had one more year after this, and I was like, oh, I mean, and this was, I guess, all this ended up happening like first month of the season. So my senior year, the year I was saying, all right, this is gonna be my last year. I was going through it, and I did all that, and honestly, I'm so lucky. I was working with a sports psychologist. His name's Dr. Fursick, Dylan Fursick, greatest dude ever. I mean, awesome. I mean, he was awesome. He helped me a lot. And when after I had that surgery or whatever, I was like, well, I guess I got to come back for another year. So I ended up like rehabbing all summer and everything, and coming back. And I guess right before this, before that, when I was rehabbing during the season while everybody was playing, I was kind of like sitting there thinking like, I I don't want to be here anymore. Like I didn't want to play. Like I had so many like things around me. Is like every time I threw, like the last 2 years, it hurt, and like everything I did, it was like painful. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like I just had like bad memories from pitching with pain and stuff like that. So that's kind of the reason I got in the portal in the first place.
Mm.
And I was just like, I just need a new like place. I need somewhere to start fresh, do whatever. And so getting the portal, I had was coming off Tommy John. So when nobody wanted a broke broke kid. So I know they said that I was like a top prospect or whatever for that little bit, but like when I got in there, nobody called me, like barely anybody. Like I had, I mean, nobody. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But then Georgia ended up getting a new coach, Wes Johnson, a great dude. He recruited me out of high school, and He's like, yeah, you should come. You can come back. It's like, oh, okay. But then I stayed in, like, kind of see what my offers were, and then South Carolina reached out. Monty Lee was one of the recruiting guys at South Carolina, one of the assistant coaches. And he recruited me out of high school when he was at Clemson. And I really I almost went to Clemson out of high school. Like, I really liked Monty. He was a good dude. And it was actually funny. I hadn't even really thought of, like, looking at Twitter, but then my buddy said that he was in the portal as well. He said, dude, I keep getting all these coaches text me on Twitter. It's Twitter. What? So nobody was talking to me. I was like, well, all right. So I go in there and I look on Twitter, and Monty Lee DM me on Twitter. I was like, what the heck? That's kind of cool. So he told me to give me his number, and so I did, and I ended up going through there and talking to him a lot. And they said, well, if you can come to South Carolina, we don't really have any money for you, but if you want to come play, I was like, all right. I mean, I reached out to them, and I talked to the trainer, liked him a lot, and so I was like, well, I feel like I could rehab here, and I feel like I could get better and all this. So I ended up making the decision to go to South Carolina just because I need somewhere new to go, and it was a great opportunity, close to home. My family moved to Beaufort, South Carolina in that time, so I was in.
Oh, love it.
Family was in there. Everything was I was like, this is perfect. I also did grow up a South Carolina fan, so that helped as well. So
Nice.
Yeah.
So essentially, let's break this down in a couple different. Let's break this down a couple different ways. So first of all, I want to definitely talk about the injury real quick because I don't want people to tie the injury to you as like your identity. You know, you're much more than your injuries in the past. But specifically Tommy John, because a lot of people, they know what Tommy John is because it's a very prominent injury in baseball, but they only think of the physical aspects of it because, you know, when their favorite player gets Tommy John, they're waiting for them to come back and be off the IL and throw for the Sox again. You know, they're not really worried about like the player and what he's going through.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you had to paint like, you know, three of the major like mental obstacles when it came to Tommy John, like what was the hardest part? I've heard a lot of different things from different people when it comes to like, dude, like not throwing every day crushed me. Like it was like my safe haven being on the mound and working on stuff. Some other people say, dude, like I just felt, you know, like a couch potato. I felt lazy. So what were like three things that you noticed, like, damn, like, and, you know, even why you started talking to a sports psychologist, like, it's like, you know, what were the obstacles that people might not know that comes along with, you know, having to go through that rehab process?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that probably the biggest thing was, so my brother also had surgery like 2 weeks before I did. So we were kind of going through it together, which was a blessing and a curse. That's kind of the thing is like you go through it and like the hardest part is like seeing other people doing it and seeing like we're on different schedules. Like I something for me would hurt. It wasn't on them. I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And then something on them would hurt. It wasn't on me. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's not hurting me. I don't know. Because I mean, it's not like the whole process is not easy. Like there's times where it's going to hurt. There's times where you're literally taking a tendon, turning it into ligament, which is like just stretching it out, which isn't supposed to feel good. So like, it was definitely like, I don't know. The whole hardest part for me was just trying not to compare myself to others, which was a big thing that I learned coming out of it. Like even like in baseball, like everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses, and you just kind of have to use your strengths. That's like every baseball player is different. Like no, there's not two players that are exactly the same. It's never going to be exactly the same. So you have to be able to use what you got and kind of trust. And then another thing, trust the process. Like it's going to get good. You just have to let it do its thing. You're human. Your body's healing. Trust the course and just go with it. And other than that, it's just really trust. Just trust and don't compare yourself. That's kind of my two things that I got out of it mostly.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And I think people need to hear that, especially people that might even be going through any injury now. It's like, dude, none of this is black and white. Like you're not just gonna, you know, get a diagnosis, get a surgery, and go down the same path that every single person had. If that was the case, there would be no such thing as physical therapy. Like there's reason it's called therapy. People are going in there with different issues, and you have to work around the individual to make them better. I'm not saying that's the whole thing of physical therapy, not my field, but the reason that it's called therapy, there's a reason behind that. And I think people need to understand, like, well, like you said, the trusting of the process is huge, and it can be tough during those situations because there's no clear cut end day or end goal.
Mhm.
There's been plenty of individuals that people know that got the surgery and maybe didn't even throw again, or never
Yeah.
came back to baseball. So it's definitely mental warfare. And if I could give any advice from my experience being around people that have you know fallen into a situation where they have to get these surgeries or they have an injury, it's like seek out the resources, like you did, and like you just said, you were seeking out a sports psychologist, but that was only the start. Like the doctors are there to be a resource for you. The people at your school, the athletic trainers, the physical therapists you're working with, like all these people are there to be a resource and help you understand that, hey, every day we're here to get better. That's our goal. If we can just get a little bit better today and work towards something, eventually you're going to get better just like everybody else. But for individuals that are going through something like that, especially when it comes to injuries in baseball, um, you know, if you're grinding it out, the game is going to be there and give you an opportunity to bounce back. And if it doesn't, well, there's a greater meaning to that for most people that you'll eventually find out. But then, yeah, the second thing I wanted to kind of ask you about from that that little synopsis of your transfer portal was the sports psychologist specifically. You mentioned his name. You can mention it again. But like it just you don't have to share anything that's personal. You don't want to share. But what were some of the things that you guys talked about that you remember, like those key things that still stick with you to this day? Because I think a lot of sports psychologists can be useful, not just for like in the moment baseball help, like as a baseball athlete, but also to take those life lessons that you're learning from this person and apply them to even now life after baseball. So I didn't know if there was anything that he said, with your time with him, that still stick with you today, that you remember him saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the biggest things I started doing is like when I got out of it was like I did a lot of journaling. Like one thing, like he was helping me through the junior season when things weren't really going my way, and it was. I mean, there'd be games I'd pitch well and like decent, and like games I wouldn't pitch well. But like one of the biggest things was like always finding the positives, like getting in like I had a journal that I would write in every time I got off the mound, off bullpens, mound reps. I mean, anything in game, everything. And like it was sometimes I would get in it like before thing, but my biggest thing was getting it after and just like getting my and like being honest with myself in it. Like a lot of times you say things like out loud to friends and stuff, and like sometimes it's not always like completely honest with how you felt or like how you like felt about how you did. But the biggest thing was like finding the positives and like making sure that you get that in there. Like find something you did good. Because it doesn't matter how bad you did, there's always going to be something that you did good. Like you got up there and you threw. You did something. Like but and it could be one pitch, could be anything. Just find something and just kind of go in there. And a lot of things. One thing I like to do was find something I did good, and then like kind of figure out what I need to work on, and then finished with like I don't know what the plan was for the week. What are you gonna do next? What's something like? Just tell yourself the next thing, and but yeah, just and don't like sugarcoat whatever you have in there. Like just what happened. It is what it is. Like and so that was one thing I learned from it, and I don't know. It was just so many little things that like I applied to situations, and I don't know. I learned a lot. It's hard to like explain like what you learn just because you're applying it to like every little situation when you're doing it, and then I don't know. You just kind of learn to just do it, and I don't know. It helped me a lot when I got back from surgery. I think just because I was more prepared and I knew how to handle things when I wasn't hurt. Like all that time I was going through that, doing all that, and I was hurt, and it was just part of the deal. And but then once I was healthy, I was like, wow, this stuff's actually really useful. Like I can
Yep.
apply it every game, every time I get on the mound. Like just getting in there and find things that work for you. Like a lot of it was like just finding what works for you. Like everybody's their own person. Like certain things aren't going to work for everybody. And so like that, and then I had one thing was a hard reset. Like one thing, like I think most pitchers in the pro ball world all do it. Is you get up there, and if something's not going your way, find something where you can tell yourself like, okay, and you be honest with yourself, like, okay, this is not going how I want it to, but that's okay. It is what it is. Like it happened, and you just like for me, my thing was wipe off the rubber. Like I wiped all the dirt off the rubber, cleaned it off, and then get back to it. Just it's a fresh start. Just kind of goes. Some people have like a thing they look at. Like some people would look at a foul pole. Like one of my old teammates would do that a lot. He's another guy in the bigs, and he said he would. Time something was going away, he had that thing like before the game he would look at. He'd say, all right, that's gonna be my thing, and he'd go in there. If something was going his way, he'd look at it and be like, all right, we're good. And then he'd go back to business and handle it the best he could. Because I mean, you're not gonna have your stuff every day, and it's not gonna go well for you. That's the game. It's hard. Like it's not an easy game, but
100%.
it is a game though, and you have to know that. Yeah.
No, that's really good. And there was a lot of good stuff in there. And I'm just going to do a little wrap up of that little blurb you gave me there because there's a lot of good stuff in there. So for starters, the journaling thing, I always tell athletes, like, your future self is going to want to hear from you if you have the opportunity. Like, if I could talk to myself 3 weeks ago when I was, hitting really well and to like get insight into what was working, then I can use that now if I'm in a slump. If you find out from journaling every day, hey, okay, when I did these 3 things the day before a game, or I did these 3 things the week before the game, and I focus only on this during this one bullpen before my really good start, hey, I can now use that to get out of a little jam when I'm not feeling my best. But like you said, on the opposite side of that, if you're all of a sudden in the worst position you can be when it comes to being injured and not playing, because if we're being honest, if you're not on the field, that's the worst. That's literally the worst thing that can happen, because you're just sitting there like, I am useless right now.
Yeah.
If you can learn to deal with your mind and your mindset during that time and set a foundation for when the injury is no longer a factor, you're going to set yourself up for success. And I tell a lot of athletes, like, within the mental skill world, it is so important to just practice the mental skills and the mindset habits before things go south. Because if we're able to be, ready and prepare for when things hit the fan, then we're going to be better primed to handle those things. But if we're only, doing the, like the journaling, and I love that you continue to do it even after you were, healthy. Like, if we're only doing the mental skills stuff when shit hits the fan, I'm sorry for cussing, but when stuff hits the fan, like, we're no use to ourselves. That's like going to the gym only when we get weak. We stay in the gym because we want to maintain our performance, and it's the same up here. The other thing that I love that you mentioned was, we call it like an environmental reset, like using something in your environment that can ground you in the moment to be, okay, that sucked, I need to walk back in. The worst thing that we, at least here at My 360 Mindset, the worst thing that we hear people say is like, okay, positive, self-talk. Like, positive self-talk is good if used in the right way. But the last thing that you need to be telling yourself after you give up a 450-foot home run with a fastball down the middle was, yo, that was a good pitch. Like, no, that wasn't a good pitch. Like, you'd be lying to yourself if you're like, yeah, dude, that was a really good pitch, I need to do that again. Like, no. You need to be able to acknowledge, hey, that was not a great pitch. Obviously, wasn't the best outcome, but I can make up for it right now by doing something good and by getting this next guy out. I mean, I'm sure you've given up a home run in your career. As a catcher, I know I've been back there when my pitcher's given up a bomb. And the only thing that I can have on my mind to be successful is, okay, we got to get this next guy out. The greatest thing about baseball is you always got to throw the next pitch. There's no running down the clock. You have to move on. And I think the elite guys, like you mentioned, they have that deliberate action or practice that they can do to reset and get back in the zone. Whether it's a guy looking at the top of his bat and taking a deep breath, like you said, I was a big foul pole guy. It didn't always work, but I look at the foul pole and be like, yeah, hell yeah, like I'm resetting right now and I'm good to go. And it's so crucial for pitchers especially, because once a pitcher loses sight of, like you said, of themselves and what's working for them and starts trying to be somebody they're not, it's only going to go further downhill. And the best pitchers are able to stay, consistently right around that consistent mark. And they're doing that by being themselves and executing their best stuff. You can't go out and try to throw, a Clayton Kershaw curveball, even though you did have a nasty curveball. But like that's not you. Like you have to go be Mike Polk, and Jonathan Cannon went out and was Jonathan Cannon when he was with us, and Orion Kirkering, another great arm, wasn't trying to be Jonathan Cannon. They were all doing their own things, and these are names of that we both know from the Cape. For people that are like, who the hell are these people? Look them up. I'm sure you'll find out who they are pretty quick. But
also on that topic, like there's plenty of times where I would sit there and like, oh, I'm gonna try. Like you look at like you see a guy do something, you're like, oh, I want to do that, and then you start trying to do it, and then it might work for the first time. Like that was one thing that sometimes I struggled with was I would look at someone and be like, all right, I want to do that, and I would try it, and they're like, it would work. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then it wouldn't, because then my natural instincts would kick in, and then like everything, the best thing was just to try to do what I do. Don't try to mimic other people. Just do what your body is able to do.
And I definitely want to like clarify this for people listening, because they don't know us and they don't know like how we think. But there's a time and a place to have conversations about getting better, and like you could definitely learn something from your teammates' changeup, and like take what he's doing, take his intent, and be able to execute that, and add that into your arsenal. But it's more so the understanding of like, okay, not everybody is built to go out and throw like 9 innings, as a starter every single outing. Like you have to understand, okay, like my role right now in this moment is to just get this out, get this guy out, then the next guy, then the next guy. I can't worry about all the extra stuff. Like, okay, this guy's getting talked to or looked at by MLB teams because he's doing X, Y, Z. I need to start doing X, Y, Z so I can be in his position. It's like, if you just be you and the best version of yourself, you're going to do well. And again, I think that's a big lesson for freshmen, especially. Like when they roll into college for the first time, they're not going to be the best person. They're not going to be the best player on the team. Sometimes they're the most skillful, but at the end of the day, it's going to be very tough for a freshman to walk in any locker room and be the best player on the team out the gate. And
you have all those guys that have so much experience, so much, like you come in there and my freshman year I came in and my locker buddy was Emerson Hancock. He plays for the Mariners now. And I was like, I would look up to him every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid's good. And every day I'd be like, there's some things that he would tell me sometimes. I would just sit and listen like, yeah, that makes sense.
You're like, dude, this guy's Jesus.
I'm just a freshman. Like these guys have so much more like wisdom, and just like half the game is just playing, like having experience. Like the more experience 100%. You have, sometimes the better you're going to be.
Exactly. And that's the coolest part about being a freshman is having people that are there to lead you and accepting that they're trying to help you, even if it's not what you want to hear. But I see a lot of freshmen, especially in my time playing, and now we're working with different athletes that try to roll in and be somebody that they're not. Like they have people that are listening now. You guys have to understand that if you're getting recruited to a college or to even play professionally, they are recruiting you because of what you already have, not just because what they think you could be. There's a side of that, like that, being projectable. But at the end of the day, they want you to come in and be whoever you are because you've shown skills that they want on their team. So there's always room to go there and get better. But you need to go in and focus on executing your strengths because that's what got you the phone call to start with. And again, I can't stress that enough because a lot of freshmen, I feel like, roll in and they try to start doing things that they see upperclassmen doing. But hey, that's not you. That's not why the coaches brought you in. If you're a really, really good hitter that maybe lacks on defense, work every day to improve your defense. But don't forget to focus on doing what you got you there, is get up there and rake, because that's what you're there to do. And yeah, dude, I think it's so fascinating to hear like high level baseball players like yourself that are able to go in and not only just like pitch well, but also, show that vulnerability of like, yeah, dude, shit hit the fan. Like stuff was not good for me for a little bit. And I was able to kind of get back at it, find a new school and find resources that helped you out. Because I think people need to hear that, especially, young men that don't have the, they don't know how to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
And case proven here, this kid just talked to himself via journal when stuff was going bad. Sometimes it's not easy to go talk to your buddies when
Yeah.
they're watching the Georgia football game about, your arm problems and what you're feeling. So you got to write to yourself and, hopefully somebody reads it. But yeah, man. So what time, how much time? What are we at? Oh my God, we've already been talking for an hour.
I
Come
think
on, man. It's that easy here. I want to make sure we're on track. We talked about the injuries a little bit. Um, okay, yeah, boom. Now let's talk pitching as a whole
Mhm.
because I talked to, again, me, not a pitcher, Mike, very good pitcher. So let's get that out of the way. So whatever Mike says is supreme to what I usually tell pitchers, but I think it's important to note that we're here to get this guy's input on my ideas. I talked to a lot of pitchers about their ability to like work like literally like pitch to pitch or like in three pitch sets. Like understanding the concept of like, okay, if I can execute every 2 out of 3 pitches, I'm going to be in a good spot.
Mhm.
And knowing that even if I, middle fastball that gets hit a mile foul, like a foul ball, that pitch served a purpose for me now. And I have to utilize that pitch to then go out and execute my next pitch and not be like, oh shit, I almost gave up a bomb. So I kind of wanted to hear a little bit about like, because you were a fiery player, you had that competitive like edge to you that people don't have. I kind of wanted to hear a little bit about how you would attack hitters, because again, I can go and tell a young youth athlete all the time, like, dude, these hitters that you're facing don't get a hit every single time in BP. Just throw it down the middle and you'll find success. But I want to hear a little bit about like, your intent and what you were on the mound to do and the purpose that you threw every ball with, because I think it's important for people to hear.
Oh man,
Sorry if it's a
no,
lot.
that's a little loaded, but
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
honestly, I was. I mean, sometimes you have to like. Oh man,
And I can
there's
simplify the question a little bit
yeah.
too,
No, I'm trying to think a little bit.
because that might make it a little easier.
So
Because
the three
really what I'm going for is like, oh, sorry. I was gonna say like
pitches.
basically all I need from you for these people that are listening is like if you're talking to a freshman in high school right now and they have the stuff to go out and perform, like what are 3 things if you could only tell them 3 things, like what are 3 things you're telling this kid about how to like go and dominate hitters? Is that if that makes sense? And how
Yeah,
to
I mean,
make sure that like their mindset is correct when they go to do it.
so I think that I will say it's probably different for a lot of people. Like, there's definitely like some pitchers or guys that are going to try to blow you up. That's kind of what I was like. I wanted to blow someone's bat. I want to break someone's bat. And then there's other guys that are more so like, I want to dodge his bat. I want to do this or that. I just want to like, I want to think like 3 pitches ahead. And I wasn't really that guy, to be honest with you. Like,
Blow up by him.
I mean, I don't really like. I try not to think too much because, like my dad says, it's not really what I'm good at. He always told me that. And I was like, well, not wrong. Yeah. So a lot of it was like this. Like for me, if I pitch, because however you pitch, once it's done, it's done. So you have to kind of play off whatever you did. Like you can try to think 3 pitches ahead, but if you do miss a pitch, which you're going to, you got to be like, all right, this is what I want to do now. Like it's, and
Like
like
adjust that plan. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and a lot of like through college, like I usually coaches would call the games, and which was good. I mean, it was the same thing in high school for me mostly. Catcher would call it or the coach would call it, but and then a lot of it was if you want to throw a pitch, you better shake to that pitch. Like you throw what you want to throw. When you're on the mound, it's your game. Don't
And
let
you
anybody tell
execute it. Then
yeah,
you execute it.
don't let anybody tell you what like once you're in there and you're throwing like you have to use what you got. And like some guys are going to be one thing, some guys will be another. Like for me, fastball up. That was my thing. Like throw it up at their letters, throw it at their hands. That was my go-to pitch anytime I needed like a strike or anything. And then my other pitches were curveball. I would throw it for a strike sometimes. Sometimes I would, and sometimes it would be on. Sometimes it wouldn't be. You got to like Like you're not going to have all your pitches all the time. That's another thing. And a changeup, it was good here and there, and then sometimes it wasn't. So another pitch, not always there. But
Oh, you would spike that thing
oh
right
yeah,
into my neck.
and I was not scared
Oh
to.
my.
I
No,
was
you
not
were
scared to
not
spike
scared to. I
that.
mean, that's what I was there to do, so I'm not complaining about it. But let me tell you, I think it was either you or Jeff Pramel, but
Yeah.
somebody spiked a changeup like it might have been 50 feet, and it bounced, it hit me square in the head, dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. And it was like week two. The first week I had Housley, who was like, yo, I'm going to do a pull down. I'm like, yeah, all right, bud. Like, whatever you want to do, I'll catch it. And I just missed it. And it was 104 right to my thigh. And I'm like, this is just, what are we doing? But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah,
No, that's good.
continue.
That's funny. But yeah, I mean, once you're in the game, like you can do whatever you want for the game, but like once you're in there to compete. Like everything else doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Like you're in there, whatever pitch you're gonna throw, that's your pitch. Say as a count coming up, you get to see a curveball, and you're like, yeah, I want to throw a curveball. You're throwing a fucking curveball. Like, don't like second guess it. Like sometimes you're going to, but that's one of those things where you prepare before, like you understand, like, oh yeah, this like I don't know, it's something like you got to be able to, you got to learn, like you said, prepare before, like do the mental game, understand how to prepare for that. But once you're in the game, you just go
It's
do
go time.
go
Yeah,
to
just do it. Yeah.
like
And I
and if
think
like a
what you're
pitch
getting
change,
at.
yeah,
Yeah, I think where you're getting at is like everything that he's saying right now. Again, for people that are listening and watching, it comes down to you knowing yourself. And I've mentioned this in pretty much every podcast episode that I've done.
yeah,
Everything that we talk about in mental skills or just even physical performance, like training for pitching or training for hitting, is knowing you and what makes you good. Like Mike Polk knows exactly what he has to go out and do, and if he has these pitches and these situations, and he can throw a curveball for a strike and spike it when he wants, like he's good to go and he can go out and compete. Um, but I think the real competitors are able to like find out how to win when you don't have that stuff. And there's a reason that you were able to play at like the highest level of baseball, especially at least in college. And you were able to go out there and just execute your stuff and know what you had to do to get that win that day or get that one out when you needed to. And like he's saying, regardless, and again, I think people need to get in the habit of not having pitches called because especially in college, coaches call a lot of different places. So whenever you get that sign or if it's pitch com, when you get that sign, hey, throw this, fuck, execute it, man. Like just dominate that pitch and move on to the next. And I
because you
think
got to
that
remember that it's hitting is hard. Like
hitting
that
is
was
so
another thing.
hard, dude.
There was one time I pitched bad. It was again my junior year, and I was like, I went in the cages late at night. I got a bat. And I turned that machine up to 95. I was like, if I can hit this, then everybody else can hit it. But I got in there, I turned that machine up to 95. I was like, oh, God dang, that thing's hard.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like it's hard hitting. And pitchers, you need to know that. Like it's hard to hit.
Never
Like
give a hitter too much credit, dude. You can't give hitters any credit.
it doesn't matter who they are. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, some of the best guys I ever pitch against are the guys that are the best hitters. Like I don't know why. It's something that it's just like that competitive side of me. Anytime I see like a certain guy get in the box, big name, I'm like, oh yeah, I got your ass.
Let's go.
I don't know why. It's just
That's literally that's like every at bat in the Cape though.
yeah, exactly.
Like you're like, oh, I want to get this guy, bro. Like let's go. I'm here. Like scouts
Yeah.
are there every night. Wood bats. So, like give me that wood. Give me that. I want that bat. I'm gonna crack that thing.
That right there.
No, that's good, man. And again, I want people to understand the value of what he's saying here, because I cannot stress this enough. That's why I keep bringing it up. This is a guy that was able to go and do it at the highest level, and you're hearing him say, "Keep it simple," and pretty much just know yourself and what you have to go do to execute. And I think that's a great. Pretty much, we have to wrap up because we're at an hour. I try to keep him around an hour. I could talk to you literally all night. Let's be real. But dude, like, if people can leave here today with a couple things I want to recap before we wrap up. First of all, injuries, obstacles, they're going to happen. And if you can find resources to walk through that and handle that, you're going to come out a better version of yourself on the other side because you're going to learn a lot about yourself and your body. But it's not the end of the world when an injury pops up. It's just the end of that sport, that what you're doing for the time being until you're ready to go again. And then especially for pitchers, go out there and just be aggressive, do your thing, establish what works for you, and marry that and do it until someone pays you big money. And if they don't, then you go off and you're like the 99% of us that don't get to go and chase our dream, but that's okay. You're going to learn something from this game that you can take into the real world, which I'm sure both of us have done already. So, but yeah, Mike, you're the man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story today, because I think people need to hear it. Because it's good to have a change of pace when it comes to this is a high level guy that's done high level things, but also has dealt with some obstacles in getting there. And that's what makes this conversation so valuable for people to understand, is there's going to be obstacles, but you can still play at the highest level even if those come up. So thank you very much for your time today, dude. I appreciate it big time.
And if you ever want to talk anymore, I got a lot more. There's a lot more in this.
Oh, no, we're doing a round two. This isn't over for people. We're doing a round two.
I got a lot of things I could talk about.
Dude, no, and that's the thing. We're gonna just so people know, I'm already planning out having a mass podcast where we bring on a ton of pitchers at once to just talk shop about pitching. And you're going to be included in that, because I just want to get as much knowledge from high level people out to anybody that listens to me. And if people are still listening, God bless you, because I don't know if I could listen to myself for this long. So, but no, Mike, it was great. It was great. And we're definitely going to have you back on to talk pitching, to talk literally just life, because I think it's valuable and you have good insight. So, yeah.
I love talking to you about it. I love your what you got going there. That stuff.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, I watched a lot of it during the season. I actually used a lot of it too. So
come on now. Let's go. You heard it here first, baby. Let's go. We're doing something right.
Man knows what's up.
Yeah, dude. But thank you. And everybody watching, thanks for tuning in. Next Friday, another episode of the My 360 Mindset podcast will be out. Don't forget to check us out on social media, Instagram. I'll tag Mike Polk on our Instagram. Give him a follow. See what's up in his life. He probably shoots ducks and stuff now, hunting. But definitely give him a shout out and a little follow. So everybody, thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you next time. Boom. Absolutely.